More than 2 decades ago, Anne Byrn made her name as the cake mix doctor with 16 best-selling cookbooks that take you on a journey through baking. The journalist, food historian, and native Southerner has spent the last 3 years working on a comprehensive book about an influential culinary tradition in baking in the American South. Byrn offers 200 recipes from home kitchens, bakeries, and even the White House. Recipes that explore the South's complicated past and present. If you're looking for Southern baking techniques, Anne Byrn's kitchen is a pretty good place to start.
So this is day 2 on the yeast roll dough. I just combined a little vegetable shortening. I used chosen avocado oil shortening.
She began with Ella Beasley's refrigerator rolls.
Ella had the monopoly on these rolls for years because she sold them and we didn't know how to make them. So putting this recipe in my book and making it, I can tell you I have figured out roll making in the South.
Those rolls are just one of 200 recipes found in Byrn's latest cookbook, Baking in the American South. It's the 16th from the former food editor for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Her most famous, published in 1999, started as a newspaper article.
The year before, when all of my children were really young and we were about to go on vacation, and I thought, what story can I just whip out? And just like that, and I thought of that, my mother making all these cakes, starting with a cake mix. And so I collected some of her recipes and a few others, and I wrote this story, and it was called The Doctor Is In, and everybody went crazy over it.
That article earned Byrn the moniker the Cake Mix Doctor, but her new book is a bit of a turn for the Tennessee native. The anthology traces not just the ingredients, but the untold stories of the people who contributed to the art of Southern baking.
There were recipes in the South that I thought was just all delicious. Maybe a meringue pie, sweet potato pie. I mean, what is wrong with that? But if you're making those pies for someone and you're not paid well, or you're enslaved, I mean, think about how baking is not always warm and fuzzy. That was a revelation to me writing this book. That something that I loved so much and valued so much could have such dark stories.
So she included recipes from across the culinary spectrum, renowned chefs, entertainers, writers, activists, and home cooks. Some like Zephyr Wright, the chef whose journey through the segregated South to Washington for President Lyndon Johnson was perilous.
She told President Johnson this, and he said that it was influential to his signing the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I didn't know that. I wasn't taught that in history class.
Now she's hoping to preserve those traditions while mixing in a dash of her own Nashville roots.
My mother loved to bake homemade bread. She loved to make homemade pie. But I think just the smells of being in the house, more than anything, was comforting. It made me want to get in the kitchen.
With recipes that were kept on index cards in a little wooden box.
My mother did a lot of clipping well, there was always storytelling, and there was always menu planning, and always thinking about the next thing that you're going to cook or bake.
That love of food and storytelling took her through culinary school in Paris and exposed her to new cuisine in the town that made her famous.
I saw the difference in how people in Georgia cooked with what they grew and where their people came from versus where, what grew in Tennessee and where I came from. And that really kind of set in motion, I think, my love affair of Southern cooking and baking, but also my curiosity.
Byrn calls those 3 years spent writing on this book an education in empathy.
What was the most shocking story for you?
The learning about rice culture in South Carolina, absolutely. The enslaved were specifically sought out from Western Africa because they already knew rice cultivation and brought in to run the canals, to do all of the heavy lifting, the digging, where they were subject to bugs, viruses, just awful, awful things. And they also prepared the food.
The food on our table continued to tell those stories, a wide range of goodies paying homage to the people and places that created them. Colonnade corn muffins from Atlanta.
These are white cornmeal, but they have a little flour and egg. It also makes great corn sticks. I love it.
Rona Roberts' savory brown butter cornbread from Lexington, Kentucky. There was also Edna Lewis's sourdough blueberry pancakes from Virginia.
So this is just fresh blueberries that I stewed with a tiny bit of sugar and fresh lemon juice. Yeah.
Byrn's Aunt Elizabeth's banana pudding from Nashville.
Vanilla wafers on the bottom. But the homemade custard. Custard is, or pudding as we call it, is one of the basic recipes of Southern baking.
We had strawberry shortcake and lemon chess tart from Jacksonville, and Athaline Payton's devil's food cake from Louisville.
She was a black home economist in the early 1900s. She was really way ahead of her time in cooking and baking with chocolate. So you don't see a lot of chocolate.
How so?
Because people didn't really cook or bake with a lot of chocolate in the South.
And finally, the cake of the South.
This is Nellie McGowan's cream cheese pound cake.
Okay, we're sharing this.
Okay, we'll share that one. Pound cakes are the cake of social justice. This was the cake that Georgia Gilmore made in Montgomery, Alabama for the 1956, bus boycott. Pound cakes have supported women. They have been sold at churches and beauty parlors. Yeah.
For Anne Byrn, baking in the American South is not just a cookbook. It's a badge of honor for a people that have known poverty and wealth, pride and shame, darkness and light. These recipes are their legacy, an honest account of their journeys from a Southerner who says her eyes are wide open.
Is there still racial prejudice? Yes. Is there still scarcity? Yes. Are there differences between what's available in one county, one state, whatever? Yes, there really is. And I think that is something that we can learn from. We can look at history and we can say, do we want to make these same mistakes again?
She and her book were just fascinating, but I have to start with the banana pudding, which was my childhood favorite.
It's so good.
It's not Aunt Elizabeth's banana pudding, but she wanted us to have a little taste of something. But you think about what she accomplishes in her book, and it really is an eye-opener because you have everyone from Minnie Pearl, remember the country singer, to Barbara Bush, to Jimmy Carter, to Zora Neale Hurston, giving recipes to life.
And I love it. It is stories. And as somebody who loves to bake, every recipe does come with a story. And those reminders when she talked about the smell, all of that scent that you have go into it. Such a beautiful combination.
And she gives full credit to everybody in every region. I love that about her.
Really good banana pudding, by the way.